A Flash in the Dark, Chapter 15, The Next Night. The next 24 hours were very stressful for Barry. She'd saved several lives, but she'd been unable to save Danton Black from himself. She'd gotten her ass kicked, and he'd leapt out the window. She'd tried to save him, but he had pulled her hand off him, forced her to drop him. She had cried when she'd gotten back to Star Labs. Caitlin had been the one to hug her through, though she seemed a bit uncomfortable. She was called in to do the CSI work for the scene and held herself together, but only just as she got back to her lab. Then Joe came in with 3 pizzas. They talked about how they could help her father. She went home that night feeling a bit better. She fell into bed feeling a bit more positive about life. The next morning, she woke to a text from Len. "Never heard back from you last night. Hoping everything went well, and that we are still on for tonight." Len's message read. Barry blushed slightly. "Everything went great. It was an easy fix. Nothing to worry about. I would love to go out tonight. Italian, right?" Len smiled at his phone. "Yes, it's a bit of an upscale place. Hope that's all right," he responded. Barry grinned slightly, the blush on her cheeks growing darker. "I think I can make that work. I get off work at 5, she replied. The reply was immediate. "I'll pick you up at 7? Len asked. Barry nodded to herself and smiled, and replied with a yes, and her address. Len smiled. The day passed by quickly, and Barry was bouncing by 5 when Eddie came in with an evidence bag holding a gun she recognized from the recent case at Stag Industries. "Hey, Alan, I need prints off this gun. We're still trying to ID Black's associates," Eddie said, setting down the evidence bag on the table. Barry nodded. "I will get that done first thing tomorrow. I'm actually done for the day. Also, if you're going to keep dating Iris, you're going to have to start calling me Barry," she insisted. Eddie smiled. "All right, Barry. I'm glad you seem cool with this. I was a bit worried about that. I've never dated anyone with a sister as close as you two are before," Eddie said, running a hand through his hair. Barry smiled at him. "Dude, as long as Iris is happy, I'm happy. Treat her right, keep her happy, and we will be the best of friends," Barry said. Eddie smiled and held out a hand for Barry to shake. She took it and shook it. "Speaking of happy, you look particularly happy today," Eddie pointed out. Barry grinned wider. "I have a date tonight," she admitted with a slight blush. Eddie smiled. "Good luck. You need a ride home?" Eddie offered. Barry shook her head. She was just going to run back to her apartment. "Thanks, Detective Thawne," she said with a grin. Eddie shook his head. "If I get to call you Barry, you get to call me Eddie," he teased. Barry nodded and picked up her purse. "All right, Eddie, I'll see you tomorrow," Barry said. Eddie nodded and left Barry in peace. She walked out of the precinct and down into an alley a few blocks away before speeding off to her apartment to get ready for her date. She spent half an hour going through her closet and ended up calling Iris to come help. "Why the hell didn't you tell me you have a date?" Iris demanded. Barry blushed lightly as her foster sister came barging into the apartment. It took 10 minutes to pick out a suitable outfit in Iris's eyes. In the end, she picked out a little black dress from the meager assortment of dresses Barry owned, lamenting the fact that her red dress was at the dry cleaners. It reached just above her knees and had a very attractive sweetheart neckline. She picked out a blue dress jacket to go with it and insisted on doing Barry's hair and makeup. It was nearly 7 by the time they were picking out shoes. Soon there was a buzzing at her intercom. She took a deep breath and walked over to it, smiling. "Hello?" she asked into the speaker. The voice that came back made her smile. "Hello, Barry. It's Len." He sounded like he was smiling. Iris held in a giggle as Barry blushed bright red. "Hello, Len. I'm on my way down. Be there in just a bit." Barry flipped off her sister as she actively tried to hold back her laughter. "See you soon, Barry," Len said. The intercom went dead and Iris burst out laughing. "Really, Iris? Why must you do that?" Barry asked, Iris hugging her sister, careful not to muss up her perfectly curled hair. "Because I love you, Blueberry. Be safe. Don't have too much fun," Iris teased. Barry blushed and hugged her sister back before practically skipping to the door in her sensible strappy flats. She made it downstairs in record time and smiled at Len, who was dressed up in a black suit and jacket, matching pants and a nice blue tie around his neck. He smiled at her and offered his arm. You look fantastic, Barry, Len said, leading her over to his car. Barry blushed lightly as Len led her over to a small blue car and opened the door for her. You don't look half bad yourself, Barry said. Len smiled as he got into the driver's seat and drove them to a quaint little Italian place. They were met by a man in a suit and bow tie. Right this way. The host led them to a small, secluded table with several candles between the two chairs. Barry smiled as Len pulled out her chair. This place is nice. I don't think I've ever been here before, Barry admitted. Len nodded as he ordered a bottle of red wine. Barry didn't recognize the name of the wine, but it sounded good. They talked over their food and even shared a dessert. He drove her back to her apartment after dinner. I would like to do that again soon, Barry, Len said, taking her hand at the door. Barry smiled at him as he walked her to the door of the apartment building. I had a good time, too. Would you like to come up for coffee? Barry offered, feeling a bit adventurous. Len's smile was a dangerous thing as he flashed it at Barry again. I would very much like that. I have an early meeting with some associates tomorrow morning, he said, hesitating. Barry nodded and led him up the stairs with a smile.